Hi everyone. My name is David. I'm a Nigerian. I am from Nigeria. Right. Currently doing this from Nigeria, and I'm excited to be here. I have about 15 12 experience helping businesses to implement technology, build applications, and products to help enable operations achieve efficiency across their operations, or particularly solve specific needs. Um, and today I'm excited to be here to particularly talk about some key capabilities that could help improve development work, particularly help us improve how we develop and particularly to map development or how to map architecting and development to impact for businesses. I've worked across about three verticals. I've worked precisely with companies such as Cadbury PLC in the West Africa region, worked with their factory, which is a subsidiary of a company in the US, Progressive currently now. We build software for the parent company and particularly help push that into operations. I was product specification specialist. After that, I worked with Primewing, worked briefly also with Job Station. Currently, I work with all right. So here is the overview, and this is what I'll be running through. I got to we'll be looking at key things around there, or focusing more on key things around there, the value chain, architecture, the ethics. We'll be looking at designing the process of designing architectures and how to manage multiple solutions and looking at measuring solutions. Then briefly look at the sample case study on translating architectures to development here. So a brief look at what particularly is solution. Basically, it's everything that helps or that meets the business need or solves that particular problem, right? And then business impact refers to the effect or the outcome of a solution or that a solution has on an organization. For instance, it could be efficiency, waste reduction, and then possibly time saving, or possibly improving quality, improving revenue generation, or profit, and all of those things. Some of this we'll talk about later on this presentation. So I haven't touched on the solutions and or what a solution is and the business impact. I'd like to move on to the next, which is architecture. And I'd like to slow down quickly a bit or focus more a bit here to particularly take a look at the key concept here, which would be very, very useful in defining all the key terms and then explaining all of those or getting an appreciation of this whole presentation. And I like to come up with an illustration, which is, for instance, if you imagine that you approach an architect or a builder rather, and say that you want to construct a house that has 4 bedrooms, but one should be downstairs for a guest. You want a sitting room, you want a kitchen, you want a dining, and then upstairs you want your personal room with your wife or your spouse, and the ones for the children there, and everything should be ensuite. But imagine that the person you are talking to a builder, and then the builder says, "Okay, I understand what you say," and then goes to build a house, and then unfortunately, it's undoable. You can't once you put or construct a building, you hardly can make significant changes to it. So instead of putting the fourth room, which is supposed to be for guests, say the builder put the short room upstairs. It becomes challenging to correct, but it's more totally a permanent thing. So basically, the same principle applies here. But if you speak to an architect, right, and the architect creates a model, say for example, a print of that on say for example, of the system shows you are able to make that correction just before the data goes into work. But even if, for instance, the user does, the customer now does not like the design or would like to have the direction of that design or how that design is going to work. And then the architect will go further by creating a model, for example, a 3D model or even a graphic motion model to even bring that design to life. And so architecture basically helps to quickly capture the requirements needed for a particular design or anything that you want to build. And it helps to communicate what has to be designed, the dimension, the specs, and all of those things to the builder. So in the same vein, within technology space, architecture particularly refers to the overall structure, design, arrangement of components that comprises a solution to address a specific business need or challenges. It involves the systematic organization of various elements, including hardware, software, networks, data processes, policies, and all of those that you need to achieve a coherent functional system. So basically, the benefit here is among us. I mean, you can't downplay on the benefit of adding architecture. The role of solutions architecture is or opera architect, even in software architecture, it is beginning to show or depict enormous value to the development, particularly engineers and developers. That's clicking or done. Here I have the types of architectures. So for instance, we have enterprise architecture, we have business architecture, data architecture, software architecture, or application architecture, technology or infrastructure architecture, we have systems architecture, such as architecture, product architecture. Some of this you may have heard of, and possibly not. But the two key architectures that I will be focusing on in this presentation or using as a premise in this presentation are the solutions architecture and the value architecture. And you will see the reason why I'm actually focusing on this two later on. But just before I go ahead, I'd like to quickly touch on enterprise architecture briefly. Enterprise architecture particularly encompasses the business architecture, data architecture, application architecture, and technology architecture. It basically sets up a high-level view of every component architecture-wise that needs to come together, or that needs to come together to help a particular business achieve its vision or set goals. However, that's quite of a high level enterprise architecture, or not many organizations actually have or would want to value enterprise architecture as well. And that is why I am actually looking at using value architecture, because it cuts across all sizes of businesses. And the reason is that, or the rationale behind it is that almost every business has a way and manner in which value is created and delivered to the user. And we would see in the subsequent slide why this perspective or the understanding of the value architecture is critical to developing solutions that actually impact the business significantly. So quickly, value chain is a framework that outlines the key activities and processes involved in delivering value to the customer within an organization. It's basically, it gives you an ability to connect key things that matters and gives you a quick insight into what are the things that helps to create value for an organization. So, for instance, say you are a partner organization or holding as a consultant to help build solutions or possibly to even manage the technology solutions or capability as well. The first thing and most important thing is to understand what are the what does the company do and how does it create value for the users. This is a typology. The value chain I have here is a typology of, for instance, an e-commerce company where you have, for instance, the supply, the primary activities, which is what actually creates the value. And then you have the secondary activities that particularly impact the ability of the primary activities to deliver values. Sometimes this could also be viewed from the perspective of different departments. However, it's better off to look at them or create them or see them as activities or sequence of activities that could lead to the creation or delivery of the value. So here we have a supply, how the organization gets to uh, get its supply, basically supply management, and how it brings that all of the supply, the products that they want to sell on the e-commerce platform, digitizing the merchandising, that is how they enable the user to be able to, or enable the platform for the user to be able to add an item to its cart, and then particularly doing, say for example, where you see the likes of recommendations, managing how recommendations or how, for example, if a user is landing on that e-commerce site for the first time, what are the things that could possibly suggest to the user what to look out for, or say, for example, after the first search for an item, the system just populates various things that the user might also be interested in. So this activity particularly looks at the recommendation, and then this sales particular part looks at how to further engage the user to buy more and all of this. And then this activity here, the fulfillment, looks at how to ensure that the product that the user or the customer ordered actually delivered to the customer. Particularly looking at the specs, the quality, and all of those things that were talked about or projected on the platform, ensuring that those are delivered accurately. So if you look at this, if you understand, or if we get to see this for the very first time, we possibly would quickly have an insight into how a solution, for example, that is focused on digital merchandising, or a solution that is focused on marketing, on enabling the marketing component of it, and how this particular activity or how that solution would likely impact the solutions that you have within the sales activity. So now here we have solutions architecture, which is the second architecture that is critical to enabling developers build effective solutions. So solutions architecture basically refers to the overall structure, design, and arrangement of components that comprises a solution to address a specific challenge. It's a bit different from the value chain, because the value chain particularly looks at the architecture from the business point of view, while the solutions architecture looks at it, solutions from the technology point of view, and particularly specifically to address the particular need of the business. On this slide, I have a typology of solutions architecture to just drive to better create an impression of how this works in real life. This marketing function, and this is based on the value chain that I showed. No, not quite. This is for a digital services firm, particularly focused on marketing, and this particular solution is more of an end-to-end, particularly in terms of, say, for example, generating or starting from the lead acquisition to nurturing to deals and other things. But here I like to slow down a bit to because this is the high point of this presentation. So you would see where we have where I have this particular tab. Let me keep one second, please. Where you have this ask, this particular notation, I would explain this notation afterwards, but this is an example of how you could create a solutions architecture for a developer and help the developer to easily translate this into code or custom solution as it were. For instance, this particular symbol connotes that this is an automated script or script-based task. And this is based on using the BPMN notation to particularly design this. I will explain some of this if symbol, or let me just quickly touch on that. So the reason why I particularly have a preference for BPMN notation in designing architectures is that it easily conveys the semantics, meaning that it conveys the immediate meaning of a particular element. For example, like this. For example, like this element. What this means is that, for instance, in this case, this is a decision point, and this means that there is only one way out of this decision, meaning when this is to be executed, it means that it's only going to happen if the deal has been signed. And so, for instance, if I am to translate this into code, my code would look like if deal is yes, for instance, just to say proceed to sending welcome email to the customer, right? But I will get into the details of this semantics and help us to get an appreciation of why the BPM or why I actually have a preference for using the BPM notation to create solutions architecture. But however, just before I leave here, solutions architecture, like you would see here, basically helps to give a quick and immediate impression of what each action has to each action that needs to take place in a code looks like. And for instance, it could also help me tell, or I could also divide this into, say, for instance, platforms or areas where I want this each of these elements to be executed from, based on my holistic understanding of the value chain or even the enterprise architecture as a whole. So like I was saying, there are quite a number of different notations that you have in creating architectures. One of such is the BPMN. Another one is the UML, and then contextually or mostly used when you want to model data architectures. You have the ERP. However, like I mentioned or hinted earlier, one of the reasons why I particularly favor this, although I use particularly this and this together, but one of the reasons why I particularly favor the BPMN is that it gives you detailed meaning of what has to happen and or how it has to happen. Like I showed earlier on, this is a decision. It's more like saying if uh, the data or the variable is not null or not is null, do this. And then this is more like execute strict, and then it tells that this is more like a code that needs to run somewhere, and this tells me that this is a subtask that is looping or that is looping or continuous, as it were, until there is a decision in it to exit this point. So basically, BPMN notation particularly helps to convey the meaning of the action that needs to happen. For example, if I am to say this, let's say this is a time triggered event. If I don't have the correct notation here that shows that this is a time triggered element, whatever is written here will not make sense to whoever is looking to execute this particular or translate this particular into particular architecture into code. And the reason is that, so for example, if I see this as a time trigger, I don't need anything else other than, say, for example, date and time, this process, as it were, or this automation or this application, as it were, needs to be triggered in order to perform its intended function. But so if I say that this is this is 1 a.m. and this is time triggered, and this should be triggered possibly say once in a month, that's all that matters. Every other thing, or that's just all that I need. But if I have this particular notation, and this does not tell me what kind of notation it is, it won't convey any meaning as to where to whoever is interpreting or looking at this architecture and then wanting to translate it into a solution. So that's why I actually favor BPMN notation, because it particularly conveys the actual meaning to be reached, or the actual meaning of each of the elements. There is an Excel tool that I use in managing multiple multiple solutions. And for instance, when, say, you've been creating solutions for about 5 years, or you've had the opportunity of creating over 100 custom solutions or applications or extensions across the Zoho platforms. And then suddenly the business calls you, or you're in a meeting and you are being asked, okay, sorry, how do we actually execute so thing, or what is this particular function doing? Or say, for instance, you are working on a new development, as it were, or a new code or use case, as it were, but you don't understand, excuse me, what has been implemented, or don't even remember what has been implemented, and what you are currently looking at implementing is likely going to impact what has been implemented. This particular reference library that I have in Excel, I will show that to you in a minute, is so useful in helping to coordinate multiple solutions, and particularly helping developers or even architects to quickly look at how a particular solution is likely going to impact existing solutions, or how existing solutions are likely going to impact the new solution that you're working on. Quick benefit of architecture gives a high-level view of the solution in view, helps to define or define comprehensive solutions or new solutions, helps to provide guidance for developers, like serve as a blueprint for development, particularly interested in helping to guide best practices, standards, scalability, and or compatibility. It also facilitates collaboration and alignment, particularly when you're working with stakeholders from different departments. Um, it helps to facilitate collaboration and alignment with all of the stakeholders that you are working with on a particular project. It also helps to balance, particularly validating functional and non-functional requirements, mostly particularly focusing on the non-functional, on the functional requirement um, of that solution. It also helps to, particularly quickly see the early risk in a particular solution. For example, like I pointed out earlier on, that for instance, if you look at if you are building the solution and you don't know how it's likely going to impact or whether it's going to start cycling as a loop. For instance, say that you have an automation that triggers based on action, and that action triggers another workflow which triggers the custom functional solution in that solution. That could become the cycle and would become worrisome. So it helps to validate functional and non-functional, help to validate or help to see the risk in a particular solution and the context of that solution. It also helps has potential to reduce the number of arbitrations for development work. Also significantly impact the ability to streamline development work. For instance, looking at a particular solution, a new solution as it could help you say, oh, we have an existing solution. We need to streamline that custom solution, or particularly just add the new function into existing custom solution, and then better achieve a streamlined development. It also enables effective communication, and then has potential to ripple into increase in product adoption as a result of quality development work. So quickly measuring and quantifying solutions value. It's critical that in the course of developing solution, particularly over a long period of time, it's imperative to understand how business or the business that you might be dealing with or working within sees the solutions or the value of the solutions that are being created. And this is particularly important for example, getting a buy-in on, for instance, upselling or integrating more Zoho products into the mix, or even particularly for partner organizations, an opportunity to upsell because you are communicating what the business or the business people understand and would likely make decisions or subsequent decisions based on. So it helps to identify and understand the business goals. It helps to identify key data that needs to be collected. It helps to identify, or we need to identify where the data can be collected from, and then understand where or how to track and collect the data over a period of time, and then measure and report and share and present that to the business or decision key decision makers that you work with. So all of this, there are quite a number of some other things that we need to consider when in terms of measuring and quantifying solutions for business. But this is typically more like a way or some of the things that you need to consider in order to measure the impact. And for instance, when you talk about, say, for example, saving time or creating a custom solution that automatically helps sort tickets in desk, for instance, into various departments, or uh, send or assign people automatically, or assign a team automatically to a particular ticket. That could enormously save man hour. That could translate to, say, for example, tens thousands of dollars, right? So understanding how that custom solution um, impacts the goal of the business will help understand how to get and track, or how to track and collect the data over a period of time, and then measure and present that for the best to see. So just before I go into the final note, which is the high point, here is one of the things that I talked about earlier on. And for instance, in this case, um, in this particular case, we have a particular context in which we wanted to help the business solve or reduce the time the production, particularly the PMs, the product managers or project managers, were spending on sorting tickets. And so just to set the context or proper context for this, and before I go ahead with this case study, so the business has about close to 80 projects in Zoho project, right? And the business, it was found that the PMs were spending a number of hours trying to effectively manage certain tasks, which we found out that shouldn't particularly, or that they needed not to or necessarily have to be managing. And so the goal was to particularly look at how to particularly build a custom solution, and particularly focus on helping the PMs particularly to reduce the man hours spent on this particularly recurring task that they spend hours managing. So contextually, what happens is that at the end of at the beginning of every month, all recurring tasks are supposed to be closed and then be opened. By default, Zoho project, for instance, has a custom or a native capability that helps to close every recurring task. That helps to recreate every recurring task when they are closed. And when we took our count, we saw that we were seeing about 600 tasks collectively across all projects that PMs across various projects need to manually close. And sometimes we have like one per PM assigned to a particular assigned to 3 or 4 projects. So it was becoming cumbersome productivity wise, and so the business had to consider a custom solution to particularly solve this project. So, however, in building, so when the custom solution was built, one of the things we realized was that the project has only has capability to execute about 100 API calls, because we needed to close or execute API tasks to close and then allow the project or the task to be created. So in order to be able to work around that, found out that the best place to implement this was in the whole flow. And so that led to the creation of this particular custom task. But Meanwhile, we have 100 tasks that we could only execute at a go. So the 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 business, so one of the things I needed to do was to look at how to run the current, like as in great ability to run automation until the whole 600 tasks have been executed. So one of the things I had to do was, to look at Zoho flow capability, and particularly looking at how to use the delay widget or action here, and then use that in the mix of the custom function to particularly manage the future of these 600 tasks. So one of the things, or what I did was that, so meanwhile, it's also not efficient to fetch 100 tasks from projects and then execute them because there's no, execute them almost instantly. It's also not, and this is because we do not have a built-in function that could help, manage which or delay the execution of that code for certain time. So one of the things I had to do was uh, pull all of the tasks that we needed to pull from or through analytics. So I created a report in analytics, Zoho Analytics, because we use Zoho One, or we use both. Yeah, we use Zoho One platform, so we have extendable capability across all of these applications or platforms. So Zoho Analytics gave me the capability to fetch all of the tasks at once through a report, and then sending or bringing those tasks into this custom action or custom function. And so then now running or sorting them first based on the date and based on whether they are monthly recurring or not. And so the first sorting it comes to play here, which is the monthly recurring or sorting them out based on monthly recurring, and then mapping them or creating a map to then send them to a different uh, flow. So this triggers a different flow. And so what it does is that each of the records fetch and pulled into this custom function gets sent to a different this second custom function one after the other. The reason is that, so you might be wondering, why do I have to send this custom function or send each of these records to the second function? I realized in the course of doing the architectural work that it's not possible to run an instance of a workflow and then send each of the records, 600 records, through by saying or creating a return function here, right? It was not possible to run and send them into this other, for example, into the next custom function. So what I had to do was send each of those executed into a different function, because Zoho Flow would execute or manage each instance of the record sent into it separately. So that gave me the opportunity to send each of those and then sort them based on or create a delay based on the index of the record, which then get sent to a delay function based on that record, and then get sent to the custom function eventually for closure. So basically, so here is 1 second. Yeah, so this comes in as a variable, date, string, variable, string variable, and that comes into this and get sorted further into whether it's the month or the date of on that task is the first day of the month or not. If it's first day of the month, it gets executed instantly. Otherwise, the date gets set to first or based on, so for instance, if the date is greater than the previous month, right, it gets, that is, if it's before the first of last month, for instance, what happens is that this custom, this particular condition here ensures that the date is first set to the previous month, to the first of the previous month, and then wait for the second execution of this particular task for it to be set to closure, right? And so that was how we were able to manage about 600, or manually, automatically manage the closure and the opening of about 600 on a monthly basis, which helped to particularly reduce about 1 hour of work of work for the PMs, or that the PMs could have expended on having to manage or close and ensure that the task be opened up on a monthly basis. And that particularly translates into, say, for example, about 10, 20,000 DSE on a monthly basis, just managing, just building custom functions to manage that capability. So, however, that's not just the only capability in that ecosystem. This is how, so we have quite a number of custom functions, or custom functions particularly built to help manage automation from creation of projects or onboarding of clients, whether it's product development work, um, to managing some of the key capabilities, for example, like status update, uh, taking comments, particularly between desk, which is what we use for ticketing system, and uh, Zoho project, and then filing those, and then managing bugs that are related or created as a result of tickets filed from guests to project for the production team to work on. So this is how we manage some of the key capabilities around our production, particularly focusing on helping to save time. And on that note, I believe that I've covered quite a high level of some of the. Okay, so here here are the key, just to recap, and then on the key takeaway things. We looked at the architectures and how value chain view or architecture shapes solutions architectures and development. How modeling architectures, translating models into solutions. Okay, so here I remember that I wanted to show us how managing multiple growing solutions architecture uh, for productivity's sake. So here, so there are a list of, we have, I have developed quite a number of solutions, different ones sitting across different products or platforms. And so in order to particularly help manage and or remember from a high level point of view what each solution is, and or in a specific track, if the solution is likely that I'm working on is likely to have any existing solution. I use this what I call that solution, the reference library, to particularly manage skills existing and new solutions. This particularly helps me reduce the amount of time to take in looking at feasibility, looking at how much time it would take, how much time goes into developing a particular solution. So, for example, if I want to build something that's likely going to affect status updates, for example, just to have an example, all I need to do is come and look at each of the um, solutions has historical impact or would likely impact status update, or for example, commenting between test and project, or for example, between creator and application that we built to manage maybe one component of our operations, or possibly build to deliver services to an external client, or build the product in ourselves to service customer, and how to particularly track how some of the solutions that we built together as an application flows or connects to different applications as much as possible. So I recommend, having this at the minimum. There are solutions that helps to manage various solutions that we did, but I believe that this solves or helps to particularly manage or gives you an insight, or could give you an insight into what solution has been built and how uh, or what solutions could be impacted as a result of a new solution that is to be built or been built, and then look at how to streamline or make necessary adjustments. So um, that is it. So we've also touched on benefits of solutions architecture process, and measuring the value of solutions. And that brings me to the end of my presentation.